Hello students, this is Dr. Flood back with another video. In this video, we're going to go over how to do your Chapter 3 methodology paper. So let's start. All right, so first what we're going to want to do is go to the section in Canvas where all the information about your methodology paper is placed. And what we're going to do is we are going to click on this hyperlink for the Chapter 3 um, template. So we're going to work off that. All right. Um, and we also are going to need this Bethune-Cookman APA slide 7th edition because we're going to be making citations. All right. And as I always state in the videos, right, which you only want to use peer-reviewed scholarly journals as sources and or your research methods, psychological measurements, and statistics textbooks. Do not use web pages or the internet as references. All right, so do not use those as references. They will not be allowed, and points will be deducted if you use those. All right. You want to, with this particular paper, you want to write in your own words, cite appropriately, and you want to create a title page and a reference page. So every chapter that you work on, all right, you're going to create a title page and a reference page, all right? And you want to limit your Turnitin score. Now, the Turnitin score for this paper is going to be a little bit higher because there's lots of things that you're going to be copying and pasting from the template, all right? But what I'm looking for when I look at your Turnitin score and your paper is that you're not just copying and pasting the information into your paper, all right? Lastly, your paper needs to have matching citations and references. So if you have a citation in your paper, there needs to be a corresponding reference. If you don't have that, all right, that's considered plagiarism, and that's an automatic 0. The same with if you have references and you don't have any corresponding citations. That too is a form of plagiarism, and you will get an automatic 0 on the paper. So make sure these match. Fourth, what you want to do is this. You want to proofread your work. The best way to do this is to read what you wrote out loud. All right? Reading it out loud will help you to be able to make sense and find grammar mistakes, punctuation mistakes, spelling mistakes, usage mistakes. All right? And lastly, when you're doing this assignment, do not use a Mac computer. Do not use an iPad. Do not use your cell phone. Do not use Google Docs. All right? Only use a PC computer and Microsoft Word. The reason why I say this is because when you are submitting your assignment into Canvas, if you use the Mac computer, the iPad, or a cell phone, or Google Docs, a lot of times the formatting gets messed up. And if the formatting of the paper gets messed up, you will lose points. So with that out of the way, let's bring up this Chapter 3 methodology template, the Bethune-Cookman APA slides. So I already have those pulled up. Give me a second while I get rid of some things. All right, so, well, before we get to that, you want to pull up the document that lists your variables. All right. And so let's say one of your variables was consciousness. All right. So what's right next to your variable in bold and in parentheses is going to be the scale that you're going to use to measure consciousness. In this case, status consciousness. So I'm going to copy this. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Bethune-Cookman library. However you manage to get there, I'm sure it's a little bit different from the student's ends. I'm going to scroll down to search databases. I'm going to press on P as in Paul. And then I'm going to scroll down to psych test. And I am going to copy and paste the name of that assessment into the search query box. I'm going to press search. And I'm going to look for the assessment that matches the wording. So that is right here, the status consciousness scale. So I'm going to press on this. All right. So now we have found our scale. All right. I'm going to hold off on going through this and go over the beginning parts of your paper. So let's look at that. Give me a second. Okay. So this is the Chapter 3 methodology template. All right. And the first part of this, it asks you, what is the purpose of your study? Now, I'm going to continue with the variables that I've used throughout my video reviews of your different assignments. All right. And so the purpose of the study was to understand and investigate the relationship between the variables of variable 1 and variable 2 for college students who attend HBCUs. Well, my first variable is anger, and my second variable is anxiety. All right. And then I'm going to unbold those. All right. My next question is under the subheading of research questions and hypotheses. And it says the primary research question: does variable 1 significantly predict variable 2 in college students who attend HBCUs? Well, variable 1, if we're being consistent, which we should be, is going to be anger. And variable 2 is anxiety. And then I'm going to unbold everything here. All right. Let's scroll a little bit down. All right. Now we have, for each research question, we have a no and we have an alternative hypothesis. So the no, HO, right? There is no predictive relationship between variable 1 and variable 2 in college students who attend an HBCU. So I'm going to get rid of this variable 1 and I'm going to put anger. And I'm going to put in here for variable 2 anxiety. All right, and then I'm going to get rid of the bold. All right, then for the alternative hypothesis, also known as H with a subscript of 1, there is a predictive relationship between variable 1 and variable 2 in college students who attend HBCUs. Once again, I'm going to erase that and put my actual variables, which in this case is anger for variable 1 and anxiety for variable 2. All right. The second research question is, do men and women college students who attend HBCUs have significantly different levels of variable 1? All right. And to be consistent, my second research question, the variable I chose to use was anger. All right. And so I'm going to put anger in there, and I'm going to take out the bolding. All right. The null hypothesis for this is going to be that there is no significant difference in levels of variable 1 between men and women college students who attend HBCUs. So I'm going to get rid of that and put anger. And for the alternative hypothesis, or H1, there is a significant difference in levels of variable 1 between men and women college students who attend HBCUs. So I'm going to get rid of that part. And once again, I'm going to put anger. Okay. And now I'm going to go to the subheading for the research design. So this research study used a correlational research design to answer the study's research questions. A correlational research design is, all right? So what you're going to do is you are going to look either in your textbook for psychological measurements or your research methods textbook, or you're going to look in Google Scholar for a peer-reviewed scholarly journal that is going to tell you what a correlational research design is. All right. Do not use a website. Do not use the internet. You only can use scholarly journal articles or your textbooks. I highly suggest using your research methods textbook or your psychological measurements textbook. And so you're going to write that in there. And right after this part, you are going to cite where you received that source from. All right. You're going to cite it. You can cite that. You're going to cite it, and then you're going to make a reference for it in the reference page. The rest of this is the variables that I investigated are variable 1 and variable 2. All right, and so for this, we're going to change those into anger. And variable 2, we are going to change into anxiety. All right, and then we are going to remove this remember to cite. All right, everywhere that I have in red parentheses to cite, you need a citation. All right, because that means in order to answer that part, you receive this information from somewhere. If you do not cite, all right, and you put some information that you found somewhere else that you don't cite, that's considered plagiarism, and you will receive a 0 on the assignment. So you want to cite where I have that you need a citation. All right, so we're going to unbold this part. All right. All right, and then we get to the target population and sample. All right, and so it says the purpose of the study was to understand and investigate the relationship between the variables of variable 1 and variable 2 for college students who attend HBCUs. Well, let's change that. We have anger, and we have anxiety. All right. The population from which samples were drawn was, all right, and you're going to explain to me who are, in general, the people that are going to mostly be in your sample. all right, what their race is, what their sex is, what their age is, all right, um, and then put that in here. All right. The sample size for the study was n equals 100. So n, for those, I know a lot of y'all haven't had statistics yet. When I write a lowercase n, I usually italicize. That indicates I'm talking about a sample or sample size. So your sample size equals 100. So the sample size for the study is 100. A purposive sampling method was used in the study. And then I want you to explain what a purposive sampling method is. Again, you can find that in your textbooks. Your research methods textbook has this information. All right. And then you remember you need to cite your work. All right. Failure to cite your work, right, means you're going to get a 0. So cite your work. And then we're going to unbold this. And we're going to erase the red part. All right, moving on. We have our procedures section. Oh, well, oh. All right. So in our procedures section, we have a total of 100 participants were selected. Participants were selected based on their presence in classrooms and willingness to be a part of the research study. Participants were mostly African American women. Then we have our protection of participants. All right. And in that one, you're just going to copy, you're just going to leave that alone because you would have pulled up this document on a Microsoft Word document and you're just filling these things in. Just going to leave that part alone. The data collection, it says you're leaving that alone as well, but to read it out in order to help you make sense of what you're doing. The researcher reached out to a number of professors via email. The researcher asked these professors if he or she, right, can come to their class to recruit participants to his research study. A time was agreed upon with the professors. The researcher came to a number of classes. The researcher introduced themselves and the study. Students were asked if they wanted to be a part of the study. Students who raised their hands or said yes were given survey packets, pen, and paper. They were told to read the informed consent form and to sign if they wanted to continue with the study. The packet included an informed consent form, a demographic questionnaire, and 2 assessments to measure each of the variables. After participants finished filling out the survey packet, the researcher checked the survey packets to make sure all questions were answered and that the informed consent form was signed. After collecting the data, the researcher transferred the data to the SPSS statistical software program. If you are a woman, all right, or a female, where it says he, you need to turn it into she. Where it says him, you need to turn it into a her. All right. Make sure you remember that. I was writing this when I created this from my own perspective. All right. Then you are going to get to the data analysis part. And in this one, all right. All right, the data analysis part. And in this one, descriptive statistics such as the mean, median, mode, and standard deviation were collected and analyzed. Inferential statistics were collected to answer the 2 research questions. The primary research question used a correlational statistical analysis to answer the research question. The primary research question was, does variable 1 significantly predict variable 2 in college students who attend HBCUs? So I'm going to remove that and put what the variable should be. In this case, anger. And in this case, anxiety. The second research question used an independent sample t-test, all right, to answer the research question. The second research question was, do men and women college students who attend HBCUs have significantly different levels of variable 1? All right, and so let's change this variable 1 into what it's supposed to be. And for me, that was going to be anger. All right, and then what you want to do is get rid of the bold. All right. That brings us to our instruments part of this particular assignment. All right, the first part is the demographic questionnaire. All right, the demographic information was collected with the demographic questionnaire. Some of the demographic information collected was age, year in school, race, and diet. All right, and then we're going to move on so that we can discuss our first instrument that we're going to use to measure one of our variables. So in this case, the name of the instrument, the first instrument that I'm looking at, all right, and that is going to be, I'm going to erase this part. All right, and that instrument is called the status consciousness scale. And you're going to keep this part, the name of the assessment, as a subheading in bold. All right, so once again, the instrument is called, right? The instrument is called the status consciousness scale. When it's in the paragraph, you're going to get rid of the bold. All right. I'm going to split the screen up between this paper and the assessment on psych test, so I could show you where you find everything at. So the instrument is called the status consciousness scale. All right, and this could be found in the description section. Well, here is the description section, and the instrument is called the status consciousness scale. All right. There are blank items on this instrument. Well, let's go down to where it says items. All right, so because it says can be found in the number of test items section. Well, the status consciousness scale consists of 40 items. All right, so you put in here that this assessment has 40 items. All right, and when you do this, you're going to get rid of the stuff in the parentheses. Okay. The construct being measured was, well, this says this can be found in the construct section. So let's go to the construct section. So here is the construct section. All right, and it says the construct being measures is status consciousness. Don't press on this because this is not a true hyperlink. It will not take you anywhere. All right, so the construct is just status consciousness. So we'll put that here. And then once again, we're going to erase the stuff in bold. All right. All right. The age group that can use this assessment is R. All right. So it says this can be found in the age group section. So let's go to the age group section. Let's find where that's at. So this is the age group section. It's titled age group. All right. So the age groups that can use this assessment are, and you just list this out. All right. So you got adults, young adults, all right, adults, young adults, 30-year-olds, middle-aged, aged, and very old. So the age groups that can use this assessment are adults, young adults, 30-year-olds, middle-aged, aged, and very old participants. And let's correct this. Okay. And it says, and we're going to erase the can be found in the age group section. And we're going to change that question mark into a period. Okay. All right. The next question asks, or the next part is the validity test or test that have been done on the measure are, and the options for this are the ones that we went over in class. All right. When you have me for psychological measurements, or if you're doing this in your senior thesis class. All right. So the different types of validity tests, there are content, criterion, concurrent, predictive, construct, factor analysis, convergent, and or discriminant validity. Some assessments are going to have only one or two validity tests that have been done on the measure. Some will have a whole lot more. All right, that depends on the test or the assessment that you are looking at. All right. And so let's talk about how to find this, right? Because there's more to this question. I kind of lead into it with more information. So once you find what the validity tests are, the next question goes, the validity correlation coefficient R, all right, was R equals question mark, all right? So when we're talking about correlation coefficient, specifically the Pearson's correlation coefficient, that the statistical notation for that is a lowercase italicized r. All right. And then it asks, is the validity strength strong, weak, or moderate? All right. And so let's try and figure this out. All right. I'm gonna put here let's go. So I don't have this here, but by the time you see this, it will be. The validity information can be found in the validity section. All right. And so let's go to that. So if we wanted to find out the validity information, we are going to go right here to where it says validity. All right. And so let's read it. So for this particular assessment, right, construct validity was done for this assessment. All right. And it says the correlation between the factors on the status consciousness scale and other personality traits suggests that the factors have a good concurrent validity. All right. They don't provide an exact correlation coefficient, but they do tell us that construct validity was done. All right. And concurrent validity. All right. And that both had good reliability. So let's write that in here. So the validity tests that have been done on the measure are construct and concurrent validity. All right. And so we could erase all of this right here. All right. Where it says the validity correlation coefficient was, all right. Well, we don't have that information for the validity of this test. So we can say the validity correlation coefficient was not given. And then we erase this part right here. All right. So in this particular part, where we're talking about where we're looking over the assessments, if the questions I'm asking you are not there, then you can just put that this information was not provided or this information was not given. All right. And in fact, provided is a better word to use. All right. So the validity correlation coefficient was not provided. All right. And so if that correlation coefficient was not provided, well, we can't assess the validity strength. All right. And so we would just erase this part as a whole. All right. Because the validity strength was, and we either have to pick strong, weak, or moderate. Well, we don't know any of that. So we're going to get rid of this. All right. Then we're going to go to the next part of this. All right. The next part is the reliability test or tests that have been done on the measure R. All right. And this can be found in the reliability section. So we have the test retest is a type of reliability, alternate, parallel, equivalent forms. And then if we are using internal consistency, there are 3 different types as went over in class. There's a split half, odd even, coefficient alpha, and or Coulter-Richardson. All right. And they furthermore asked the reliability coefficient was, and that too is a Pearson's R. So we would have the R equals. And also as asking us the reliability. Is reliability strong, weak, or moderate? So let's start to answer this question. All right. So in order to start answering this question, right, we can go to the reliability section. So the reliability section is right here where it says reliability. So in this case, an internal consistency was done, and that was the Cronbach's alpha. All right. And it gives us a number of internal correlation coefficient Cronbach alpha scores. We don't have to put all of these scores here. We just got to put what the range is. All right. So if let's find the lowest correlation here. All right. So the lowest correlation looks to be around 0.80. All right. And the highest correlation is about 0.90. All right. So what we're going to do over here is we're going to select the kind of reliability test that was done. Right. And so the reliability tests that have been done on the measure. And so it was only one test that had been done on the measure. Was our internal consistency. Cronbach's alpha. All right. So that's how you answer that first one. All right. And then we can erase the other parts of this because we don't need this part anymore. All right. The reliability correlation coefficient was, well, was, so what R equals point, what, 0.80 to 0.90. Period. All right. And now we're going to assess if this reliability was strong, weak, or moderate. And to get that, we're going to use the diagram at the bottom of this document to assess. All right. So let's go to the bottom of this document. Remember, our correlation is positive 0.8 to 0.90. Well, down here, I have the correlation coefficient diagram. It's going to tell us if the correlation is weak or strong. It tells us if the correlation between the two variables is an inverse relationship, meaning as one variable increases, the other variable is decreasing, and vice versa, or if it is the direct correlation, all right, also known as a positive correlation, which means that as one variable is going up in value, the other variable is also going up in value, all right? So if the correlation is weak, it's going to be between, doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, it's going to be between 0 and 0.3. That's a weak correlation, all right? If it is between 0.4 to 0.6, whether that's positive or negative, well, that's going to be a medium correlation. And if it's between 0.7 to 1.0, well, that's considered a strong correlation, all right? And so our correlation was 0.80 to 0.90. So that is somewhere positive 0.8 to positive 0.9. So that is somewhere between positive 0.7 to positive 1. So that would be a strong correlation. And so I'm going to put that here. All right. Let's go up to where we're at. Okay. So the reliability was strong. So let's erase all this part. Oh. All right, and then I'm going to erase this information here. This one, again, like I said earlier, if there is no validity or reliability data for the instrument, state that there is no reliability and validity data for the instrument. And then you're going to also remember to cite. So let's talk about how I would cite this. I'm getting all my information from this part of psych test. In order to cite this, all right, I'm going to go to cite right here. And that's going to bring up another box. All right, and let me make this bigger so you can see it in a better light. All right, so it's going to bring this up. And I'm going to scroll down to the APA 7th edition. All right, and this is my reference. All right, so I'm going to copy and paste this into my reference page. So let's do that. Let's copy and paste this into the reference page. Remember, your reference page is going to start on its own page at the top, and the instructions right here say to get rid of this, erase this diagram after creating the paper. So let's get rid of this. All right, and then we're just going to paste this in here. All right, let's see. All right, and you may have to change this a little bit to make sure that it is in line with the APA standards. I'm not going to do this here, but I just wanted you to know where to get the references from. Now, if I wanted to cite this, well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 authors. So I'm going to pull up my Bethune-Cookman APA slides, all right, to look at how I would make a citation for this. So I'm going to go all the way down to this slide right here, which says multiple authors in APA in-text citations. So if I'm going to be making a parenthetical citation, all right? So a citation that comes at the end of the thing that you have paraphrased. If it's 3 or more authors, I'm going to put parentheses, right? Parentheses and then et al, period, comma, year of publication, and then close the parentheses. So these authors published this paper in 2014. So let's go back up, all right, to that part so we can put in the correct citation. All right. So let's put in the right citation. So we're going to put in the first author's last name, which is Alba. So Alba et al. And it was 2014. All right. And so that is how you would cite this particular paper. All right. And now let's get back to answering some more of the questions for this assignment. Okay. So let's get out of this and get back to the status consciousness scale. All right. So then there's on a second paragraph, there's more questions to answer. And so this one asks, the assessment takes how long to complete? So this could be found in the description. So it could be found sometimes over here in the description, right, for an assessment. It can sometimes be found in the source citation articles. So let's go to the source citation articles. So this is where this information was collected from. Sometimes if you go here, you will find more information that's not covered in this write-up of the assessment. It can also sometimes be found in the supporting documentation section. All right. So go to supporting documentation section. Sometimes this section is not there. I don't see this here. So no, this one doesn't have a supporting documentation section. All right. If no information is provided in those sections about how long this test specifically takes, all right, you would estimate how long it would take to complete by looking at how many questions are on here and how long it would take somebody like yourself to take the test. So in reading this part, I don't see where it tells you exactly how long it takes to finish, to complete the assessment. So I'm going to try and estimate it. So how would I go about doing that? All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this left-hand side and press PDF full text. All right. And once I press PDF full text, all right, it's going to take me to a place where the questions for this assessment are at. Sometimes it also gives more information. All right. And we'll discuss this when we are creating our assessment. All right. So in this one, let's see. So these are the questions for the status consciousness scale assessment. All right. So um, if I were to be taking this test, where it says it doesn't matter to me where I stand in the social order, right? How you answer these tests, this particular assessment is participants are asked to indicate the degree to which they agree with or disagree with each of the 40 statements on a scale of 1 equals strongly agree to 7 equals strongly agree. 1 equals strongly disagree to 7 equals strongly agree. All right, so as I'm looking through this test, I can estimate just how long I would be able to take it. Now, you could take it yourself and estimate how long it took you, or you can give a reasonable estimate. So I think if I'm taking this seriously and I want to make sure I'm answering the questions to the best of my ability, this would probably take me about 20 minutes or so to complete. So let's go back to our document. So the assessment takes about 20 minutes to complete. If it was shorter, let's say some assessments are 4 minutes, are 5 questions. Well, if it's 5 questions, you can say the assessment takes about 5 minutes. All right, it's an estimate. All right, and then let's get rid of all of this stuff right here. All right, then the next question asks. All right, let's go back. Well, let's go back to this part. Okay. So then it asks, there is a or is no fee to use this assessment. Well, to find this, you go to can be found in the fee section. So let's go to the fee section. So here's the fee section, and no, there is no fee to take this test. So I would pick, right? Get rid of that. There is no fee to use the assessment. And then I'm going to erase this part right here. That tells me how to find the information for this question. The readability of the assessment was poor, adequate, or good. All right. So with this one, when you read over the assessment, all right, did you think that it was easily readable? Was it poorly? Is it hard to read? Is it good to read? Is it well written? All right, you would put what you feel about that. So the readability of the assessment, I'm going to put that it is good. All right. The next question asks, the test is scored by. And so this question is a little bit tricky. The test is can be scored in a number of different ways. All right. For most of the tests that you're going to come across that I have chosen for you, all right, the tests are scored by you adding up all of the item answers to get a total score. Some tests, you are going to add up the scores, your total scores, and then you're going to divide by the number of scores to get what is called a mean total score for a person on that test. And information about how you score the test can be found in the format. So let's go to the format part of this. All right, so in this one, it says the participants were asked to indicate the degree to which they agree with or disagree with each of the 40 statements. So it doesn't exactly tell us how to score the test. All right. Well, it does tell us part of how to score the test. All right. It tells you, well, how to answer the test, all right, which is going to be an important part of how to score it. It can also be found in the description section. So let's go to the description and see if we find that out here. So in reading this, it doesn't say exactly how to score the test. All right. It can also be found in the supporting documentation section. So let's go to that section. And for this one, there was no supporting documentation section. It could also be found in the source citation section, right? We can go to this particular article and see if they say it. All right. So if none of those works, right, we are going to have to kind of infer, all right, how this test works. All right. So the test is scored by, all right, and the first part of this you're going to put is what was found in the formatting section. So let's go to the format. Let's see what that's at again. All right. The test is scored. All right. So the test is scored by answering by having participants answer if they agree with an item. The response options are 1 equals strongly agree, 2, 7 equals strongly agree. Oh, so this one, so 1 equals strongly disagree, to 7 equals strongly agree. All right. And so it further asks, right, so do you add up the item, do you add up all the items answers to get a total score, or do you add up the scores and divide by the number of scores to get a mean total score? So it doesn't exactly tell you this, so you'll have to infer this. All right. And how you're going to infer this is, let's, that part, it doesn't really tell you. So let's move on to the next question. All right. So the next part of this says the assessment total score can be interpreted in the following way. All right. So it asks, do high or low total scores mean that you have more or less of the variable? All right. And so this could be found in a number of places, in other research articles you use in your literature review. It could also sometimes be found in the supporting documentation section. In this section, if this section is operable, it may have a test manual guide that goes into more detail about how you would score the test. But if none of that's provided, which a lot of times it is not, you're going to have to infer this. And so this is how you would infer this. So you're going to go and press PDF full text once again. Give me a second, so hopefully it pops up. All right. And so what you'll do is you're going to read the question and then see how you would answer it to get a feel of if higher scores mean you have more of the thing that is being measured or less of the thing being measured. So in this case, we have this is the status consciousness scale. How conscious are you of your status? Right? So the first question is, it doesn't matter to me where I stand in the social order. And the responses would be 1 means you disagree, and uh, and all the way up to 7 meaning that you strongly agree. So if you were a status conscious person, well then saying it doesn't matter to me where I stand in the social order, right? 1 meaning you disagree, 7 means you really agree, you completely agree. Well, um, excuse me. So yeah, so back to these questions. So if you're reading them, you would have to answer them yourself, or maybe interpret whether high scores mean you have less or more of the thing again that's being measured. So let's go to the first question. It doesn't matter to me where I stand in the social order. For me, I would put 7, strongly agree, right? Um, 2, question 2 is I'm not interested in trying to impress people. All right. And that for me, that would also be a 7, that I strongly agree. Question 3 is I don't spend much time thinking about whether I'm good enough compared to others. That's also a 7 for me. That's strongly agree. So if I'm answering these questions, it looks like higher scores are associated with less status consciousness. All right. And so that's what I would write in my write up over here. All right. So the assessment's total score can be interpreted in the following way, right? So first if I was taking the whole entire thing, I would add up, right? I would add up all the scores on this test. So I would take all 40 questions. I would add up my total score. And my total score, right, is going to indicate, right? So the assessment total score can be interpreted in the following way. The assessment total score can be interpreted that higher scores indicate that you have lower levels of status consciousness. Okay. And once you do that, you could erase this part. All right. So that part is a little bit tricky. So you'll have to read sometimes the items in order to understand if high scores mean that you have more of the variable you're measuring, or or that means you have less of the variable that you are measuring. All right. And then the next part is a sample item from the assessment is, and then you would include an item from the assessment here. So let's include an item from the assessment. So I would copy one of the items in the assessment. And I would put it in between these quotation marks. All right, and you want to clean it up. So I'm not interested in trying to impress people. And then you want to remove the bold, and you want to and then you want to erase the red remember to cite. All right. And then you want to put an actual citation there. So an actual citation, if we're going to use a parenthetical citation, would be this. Okay. And that's how you do or you complete the evaluation of the assessment in your methodology paper. And then you're going to do that same thing for your second instrument as well. And once you do that, then you are going to just leave this ethical consideration paragraph as it is. And then you are going to create your reference page. Make sure the reference page is in proper APA format. All right, because this right here is not. All right, so make sure it's in proper APA format. And then you are going to save the document as the chapter 3 methodology section. All right, and you are going to send it to me via Canvas. And that brings me to the end of this particular video, and you have a great day.